Yes, sir, and welcome back to another Dark and Darker mobile video. You already know how we do it. We are back in the nightmare, and we have with you guys the fighter advanced guide. You know what I mean? This is basically just a slight little, tidbit. Nothing too much, nothing too major. Just something to give you a bit of an inkling onto how you should probably be trying to approach it if you've never actually played Darker and Darker before. But as always, I am a huge ambassador for the best way to get better at something is to learn something. So please do not take my guides as gospel. Only really use them as a guideline for basically, just take it. The only thing that is different, I just sat there and played, bro. I went there, I played it on PC, but when it comes down to figuring out what works best for you and your playstyle, you're always going to kind of figure that out by actually experimenting. Like, yeah, I can explain this all day, but when you get in and you actually feel the game for yourself, then you'll have a better idea of what suits you. You get what I mean? What you're seeing is always going to be what works for me, but I will just give you a basic guideline. You know what I mean? Like, all right, so when we jump into the fighter excels in close range combat, literally, but not like DPS wise. Well, I mean, like I said, depending on how you build your character, I'm not gonna say DPS, but he basically excels in close range combat. His perks are basically inked towards shields, which basically is more like nullifying enemy damage and stopping their damage in like survival, which basically falls under survivability. He's basically a long-term close range fighter. The fighter can basically heal himself every minute or so, in addition to having high defense capabilities through plate armor, having a variety of weapons, it just makes them a master of the close range combat scene. But they're a jack of all trades. You know what I mean? They can use everything. You feel me? Like, they can use everything at their disposal. You can put a crossbow or a bow, you know what I mean, or an axe or something like that. Like, all of that, like, it's literally, the possibilities are endless. But because of that, the fighter is basically, you're plain old ordinary. Like, because you're a jack of all trades, you're a master of none type of thing. It's like they don't do the highest damage, they're not the best at long range, simply because, like, while they can use a crossbow, they don't have any of the actual like perks and stuff that make it better. It's just like, yeah, you can hit me with a little bit of damage or whatever, you can rock a long sword or anything like that, but you just don't really have that wow factor, like, the mage with their fireballs, or the priest with their heals, or the barbarian that's like life after death, or just like really pummeling people down, or like the ranger, close ranger, or the rogue who's stealthy and sneaky. You just kind of got the guy that's just kind of there. He can keep up with everyone. Like, he can keep up in a fight with just about every class. He's really not at a disadvantage or a particular advantage. I'd say when you do rock plate armor and stuff like that, your magic resistance is very low, so you probably are like outclassed by like a mage per se. But given the fact that you can kind of heal yourself up, you got your shield capabilities, you have the long range bow, you can still kind of contest with and defend against them while remaining relatively safe, while still sticking to your strengths, because you don't really have any. You're just kind of all over the place. Very hard to read. You never know what you're gonna get with the fighter. Is he gonna have two swords, or is he gonna have an axe? Is he gonna have a dagger? Is he gonna have a long bow? Is he gonna have a bow? Like, it's like, it's wild. You just like when approaching a fighter, I'd say proceed with the caution, honestly, and kind of try to let them make the first move, simply because, like, you just never know what they have, and you kind of want the fighter to show their hand. Like, the fighter's best strength is truly that you don't know what they have until they use it on you, and so you kind of want to know. Like, so when approaching a fighter, allow them to show their hand first. Like, do not move into, like, don't just automatically assume they're only equipped for close range combat, or assume that they're rocking like a long ranged, short range build where they have like because there's like a lot of disadvantages that come with that. Again, as I've already covered, the bow doesn't, like, if you rock a bow or a crossbow, you have no perks with that. Like, you have no perks that come with that, so you're kind of just like, the base, like, and it's not really all, like, it's good, don't get me wrong, because it's always good to be able to contend with the ranges, but then you really give up. Like, all right, if you rock a bow and then you rock a sword and shield, you give up the ability to space out like rogues because even up close, rogues are fast enough where they will kind of outstrafe you. So unless you're built for like speed, which you probably won't be, being a fighter most of the time, they will quickly just get behind you and like stick you, jab you, and there will be really nothing you can do about it. Like right here, I have no choice but to kind of contend, and you see how he's just kind of running me down. Really, I can't really do much, and it's like boom, I have my sword and shield, but if I pull out my long sword, then I can space him out. Right now he has to worry about the stab, he has to worry about getting hit from a longer distance. You get what I mean? See, with the bow, there's a chance he could just aim for the point where I have to reload. See, you know what I'm saying? Got the 3-hit combo by blocking one of them and hit him in the head. Boom. You see what I mean? Like, that wouldn't have happened had I gave it up for it. So when you think about giving up your best like suited position, you also have to think about the down plays, and that's really how you become a better darker and darker player. You don't think about the strengths that come with your build. You try to consider all the places where you would be lacking. You dig what I mean? Like, okay, if I opt for this and this and this, what would I be missing out on, and what would that leave me vulnerable to? You know what I mean? And as you take the time to plan out, it becomes more secondhand nature. Your playstyle begins to adapt to the different ways that you play. You dig what I mean? Like how when you play a rogue, you probably don't play the same way that you play the ranger. That's basically the same way when it comes to the different builds and the different types of ways that you can express with your character build. You know what I mean? As you gain, you will just simply get a better idea of what works when you are in a certain situation and playing with a certain thing. Very, very simple. I feel like that's good, and it's like I want to see more people in Nightmare. I'm tired of having 1 minute queue times. It is not different because of the gear scores. The only time where it is just crazy is if you run into somebody with legendaries, but most people aren't gonna rock legendaries for real because they don't want to run the risk of losing them to BS. It's just not beneficial, I guess. But like I said, who knows? I just haven't ran into anybody. Most people won't even rock the support gear that they get, or they only rock the support gear. And all of these raids are made with the support gear, just to let you guys know, like, they literally let you guys practice. You know what I mean? The harder modes, just get in there, die a few times to the mobs and stuff like that. You'll get an idea of what mobs you can and can't fight at the time and stuff like that. Like what was happening in there, he already riled up the mobs and stuff. Like I tried to like stick it out and draw him towards me, but I'm just not trying to deal with the skeletal champion, a red skelly, because all right, there's a difference between the stronger skeletons and the red ones. Like, but you can't really tell. But the red ones run like really fast. Like that dude, he covered some distance. There's really not much difference between the attacks for this particular skeleton, but they do a lot more damage and they're a lot faster. Like that dude covered mad distance. And there's like the red goblins and stuff like that, but you start to see more of the red variation when you go to the hell modes and stuff like that. It's not really something you have to worry about with Nightmare. Nightmare is just more like, I guess, like a stronger mob version of the other maps, but when you get to it, it's like actually very different. Like it's wild. So those will also have to be like separate guides of, just because the layouts like change like very extremely. And they're a lot larger, right? The only difference with that, just come prepared with ample heals and make sure that you're, you know, rocking utilities. Like if your character does not have like awkward, please rock like, you know, protection, stuff like to prolong you in the actual fight. You know what I mean? Like I often check a lot of people's boxes and stuff, and they're not, you know, there's no willpower potions in there, and they're a wizard. Like what are we doing? Or they're a cleric and there's no willpower. Oh my god. Being a cleric and not having your own willpower potions is like just bringing a gun to a gunfight and you have 3 bullets. Like, dude, we gonna have to tighten up with our builds, invest a little bit more into your gear, invest into your utilities, actually think about your perks and actives and how they work with the weapons and stuff that you're taking in. Don't just take in a bunch of stuff that sounds good. You know what I mean? Actually really think about it. Like, even though I have a shield, I didn't rock a lot of the shield passes because I don't really too much depend on my shield. I'm not a sword and shield. I like to fight, like straight up. I opt for the longsword because the longsword fits a lot more. I can attack but yet defend. I just run the risk of having to really play out my spacing and making sure that I'm paying attention to swings. Hope you enjoyed this guide. Hope it gives you a bet, and I'll catch you guys at Global Launch. Peace out.